Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ready to Amplify, the interview series this month, where I'll be featuring some up and coming and already in the spotlight women who are going to share some of their journeys and insights and tips. And I hear a little shuffling in the background, so we're going live with an interview with Amber Mack. Welcome, Amber.
Thank you so much. If you hear any shuffling on my end, that is Chris, who is my husband and business partner, and he's also a video genius. So he's coming in and he's increasing my audio sound to make sure that everything sounds okay. And it looks like Shelly says sound is good for me, and Shelly says I can hear you both clearly. And if anyone has any other tech problems, let us know. And then you'll see this man sort of scurrying around underneath my desk fixing things.
Okay, I love it. I love it. This is all, this is real world stuff, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. I think that Amber has made a huge impact in my journey, and just it started with a conversation years ago, just at a marketing conference where I shared with her, like, just I can't remember exactly what, but the theme was, I'm a new mom, I'm a full-time entrepreneur, and I'm losing myself, and I'm tired and exhausted and overwhelmed. And like, I was like, you're speaking all the time and you're here and there. Like, how do you do this? And she shared that, Amber, you have your systems, right? And the thing is, I reached out to you about 4 weeks ago and I said, Amber, like, I can't think of anyone better to write the foreword of my book, Ready to Amplify, than you. And it just clicked. I sent you a very personal video message. I wonder if I should even share that one day with other people, because it was like pretty raw. But Amber, like you share in the foreword that at one point, we work so hard in amplifying it and work going over and above, like you hit the wall. And I'm going to make you relive that, because we did this in the what we thought was the live broadcast a few minutes ago. But can you tell me a little bit about, like, what was that turning point for you when you hit rock bottom? You're traveling all the time, you're on stages, you're pushing and overcoming the barriers that it takes to get where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think that my is necessarily unique, in the sense that I think there are many women who are running their own businesses, and men as well, who have children and who experience that point in life where they feel like, okay, something just has to change. I've had a few of those times in my life, even pre having a child. But for me, I had a really revealing experience, is probably the best way to describe it, when my son was about 2 years old. And I had just written my first book. It did really well. I had signed on with a speakers bureau. That basically means that I have an agent who sends me out on speaking tours and events. And I was very, very busy. And I was one of those people who believe, like, hey, nothing can stop me. I'm good. And I was going down to Florida with my family. And then I had arranged it in my genius way that on the way back, on our drive back from Florida to Toronto, we would stop in Atlanta. And then I would fly to my speaking event in Utah. And my husband and son would stay at the hotel for the night. And this was, it all seemed perfect in my mind. I was nursing at the time. I nursed till my son was a little bit over 2, and a lot of stuff going on. I was tired, but nonetheless, did this. I went to the airport, and they were staying at an airport hotel. I got to the airport, and to be honest with you, I don't really associate with the person who was at the airport, because I can't believe the situation that I was in. For some reason, I just broke down in a corner, and I just couldn't get on the plane. It was just it was just a moment where I just kind of stopped in my tracks. I had no energy. I had no motivation. I was not feeling great. I felt drained. I couldn't go. And then I was emotionally just really torn, because I had left my son so much since he was little. And it was just all coming home to think, like, here they are in this little, motel near the airport, and getting on the flight, and I couldn't go. And I just sat in a corner and I just sort of let it all out. I had a security guard come up to me to make sure I was okay. And I was just crying and, on the phone. I called my husband, and he and my son came to pick me up and brought me back to the hotel. He called my speakers bureau, was like, Amber can't go. She's, needs some time. And it turned out, after that, I had found out that I was severely anemic, which may not sound like a big deal, but if you suffer from being anemic, you understand that can affect your energy levels. You can get very sick. There are a lot of issues. And I was just burnt out. And from that point, I had to kind of rebuild. And I did that. But I just say that because you don't see these stories on social media, right? You just assume everything is shiny and perfect, and it's not always that way.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. And I think that more people need to be telling these stories, right? And so I think the interesting thing though is that you are always stepping into a bigger spotlight. That's what we do to make a bigger impact and to reach more people. And you've had some really cool experiences. You host a Sirius FM radio show. You just launched a brand new podcast last week with called the AI Effect. And I mean, it's what is that like for you? Like stepping like always kind of getting to the next thing. Like how do you do like what systems, we hit these walls and yet we're still pushing through and we're still reaching higher. I think there's these A type. Are you an A type?
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm as A-type as anyone else out there who is kind of driven and motivated. And I think for me, it's one of those situations where I'm a really hard worker. I've always had great work ethic since I was really little. I worked in my parents' business, and I was never scared of work. I loved work. To me, work is kind of life, and I'm extremely excited and passionate about what I do. And that sounds like such a cliche, but I love work. When someone comments on something that I put on social media, every single comment I take to heart, and I think, hey, this is really cool that even one person cares. I don't have to win at everything.
Right. So along the way, can you share a little bit? Because I think this is another untold story that I think is becoming, the more years I put into the full-time journey of being an entrepreneur, is this thing that I think there's actually a name for it called like the impostor syndrome. I don't know about you, but I mean, even putting out my book today, like I was up till like 2 a.m. last night, just like doing stupid stuff, like I just couldn't go to sleep. I was really nervous. And, tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, is that still happening? Does that still happen where it's like you make big asks and do you get nervous?
Yeah, you know what? I still always get nervous. Even when I go to speak on stage, I still get nervous. And I've done hundreds and hundreds of events. So I'm always very nervous before I go on stage. And I always think to myself, like, I would rather be doing pretty much anything because I don't associate myself as being a public speaker. I mean, I don't associate that with who I am as a person. I was always nervous about speaking. And so what's really interesting to me, it goes back to Malcolm Gladwell when you talk about the 10,000 hour rule. And I think that's true for me with speaking. Like now I go on stage and again, I don't identify with that person on stage. Like, who is she? She's confident. She's, she's smart. She's well-spoken. And then I get off stage and I feel like a very disconnected relationship with that person. And that's just from practice. Right.
Yeah,
and that's amazing. It's like now I go on autopilot. I know what to do up there. And that's not because that is something that's ingrained in the way that I was brought up or lived my life. I was always very shy. And in fact, in high school, my parents had to get a therapist to write a note to say, don't call on Amber to speak publicly in class because I would have anxiety attacks before people even knew that was an anxiety attack. So again, it just goes to show you like hard work and perseverance is really what gets you to that point where you are successful.
Amazing. And I know when I reached out to ask you about writing the foreword that I remember after you said yes, which was like, I was just, jumping around in my pajamas that day. But like, cause it was a little later in the day.
All good.
I don't wear pajamas when I work during the day. That is one of those things, like it was a rule. I was like, when I work from home, I am not wearing my pajamas. But after hours, I'm allowed. But yeah, so when I reached out and asked you to write the foreword and then you said yes, I was like, I was kind of like creeping you more online. I was like, oh my goodness, Amber, she was like in Niagara Falls and then Las Vegas, like you were all over the place. So what is your secret for staying strong? Like, are you working out at the hotels? Are you do you have space before and after events? Like, how do you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this, again, has been something that isn't an overnight thing. I don't think there's any magic bullet. But when I was 25 years old, I lived in San Francisco and I used to party a lot. I quit drinking completely and I haven't had a sip of alcohol since. So it's been many, many years. And from that point on, I think like sobriety has really helped me just to stay focused, to feel energized. And then I've coupled that with over the years learning, I ran a marathon and then I started doing circuit training and then, really focusing on my food and, trying different diets, whether it's paleo or keto. I'm constantly trying new things to ensure that I feel good. And I mean, it's only been probably the past few years that I've really fully understood that my business can't be a successful business if I feel the way that I used to feel. If I feel tired and stressed out and anxious, none of those things are going to lead to success. So to me, the health piece of it is actually such a big piece that no one likes to talk about in business. Especially I find men, and you go to these conferences and everybody's like, oh, it's the financials, the investment, this and that. You know what? If you are feeling strong and healthy, I think that really is a great starting point for success in your business life.
Oh, it's huge. Like it translates so well. And, I think that if you've ever suffered from anxiety and or just stress in general, like it does deplete you. And I think it can take away from your effectiveness as the entrepreneur that you are, right? So definitely, I like to think, somebody said to me this, like, health is wealth. Health is wealth. And health for me as a business strategy of mine as well, like just because I have hit the wall, I have gone through a couple of miscarriages like through the years and just like working so hard, right? So the less is more attitude for me is like, you got to be smarter with your time and all that. But I want to share something that you revealed in the forward, you touched upon, and I wanted to share it in the interview, is that you said there was one decision when you decided that you were ready to up your game, that you saw a 500% growth in your business over 5 years. And it was really around how you treated and saw your online community and how you treated your content. So can you talk a little bit more about that today and share with people that decision and the actions and the focus really? I mean, that's really what it comes down to, I think, that made all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just want to recognize there's lots of people who are watching, Shelly, Sarah, Teresa. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking in on the chat as well. And I think that we underestimate the power of content, really. Let's be honest. I mean, I think everybody does. And what I did 5 years ago with Amber Mac Media, which is to really say, hey, we're going to invest in content. And that means that we're going to target different groups. Like I know I have a business audience, and those people are hiring me for speaking events. And that's a revenue generating stream of business. I also know that in consumer tech, I have great opportunities. So maybe I can access and reach people. And when it comes to people who are interested in consumer technology on Facebook and Instagram and those more consumer friendly platforms. And then when we think about engaging content, we really started to specialize in doing live streaming. So Chris and his team, we do lots of Facebook Lives and live streaming above and beyond that as well to get engagement up and running. To me, that's the most cost-effective way to grow your audience, is just doing a Facebook Live, producing great content and engaging while you are talking. And we see that right now with people who are in chat. So one of the things that I really focused on was investing time into that content. Now, remember, I worked in traditional television for quite some time. And what I saw there just with the introductions of new technologies is that it wasn't sustainable, that you needed, 50 people to produce a half-hour show when much of this could be done effectively at a lower cost. But more importantly for me, I didn't really want a 9-to-5 job, especially after I had my son. I wanted the flexibility. Like yesterday, I went to his school at lunchtime, helped him get into his costume. And to me, that is worth every single hour that I've put into running this business, is the freedom to decide that I get to do what I want when I want to do it. And that's really why I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
That's incredible. I love that. And I think that, it goes for saying, like, I love that you just said hi to our audience. Like, I'm still figuring out the tech these days. But I do see some comments in Stephanie and Annette and Teresa, Laura, Shelly. This is amazing. And that's what I love about this space that we're in, is that the online industry is really, like you said, in the forward of Ready to Amplify, it's like a $350 billion industry, is that online education and training and access. But I couldn't, I've shared with people online leading up to this interview, like you couldn't be more real online, even like if you can imagine the tech glitches we had this morning and just, like you're rolling with it and you get it. And so how do you keep up? Like, I think that sometimes people are afraid of success when they step into a bigger spotlight and, more notifications, trolls, not keeping up. So how do you keep up with everyone? Do you have a couple of systems, happening, like where you're catching all those notifications? Do you use apps for that, or?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think you're exactly right. I think it's a grind, and I think not everybody is suited for that grind, right? Like, for me, just at the level that I'm at, as far as social media, in terms of having a large engaged audience, and I mean, it's not massive, but it's large enough that I sort of need to be checking my phone on a regular basis. I don't see any times where I'm not available to do that. And in fact, I would argue that I enjoy it. So if I'm standing in line at the grocery store, the chances are that I'm answering a few messages on Instagram or on Facebook. And I like that. I mean, I enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, it feels like work, then don't do it. I mean, that's not right for you. And I think that it really comes down to the reality that I'm a people person. I love connecting with people. I love talking to people. I am curious, and I want to be able to build these connections. So that is important to me, and I think that that's the piece that you have to get. And the second thing, just backing up to what you had just said, is in terms of people being afraid of success. If you follow Brene Brown, who is a fabulous author and researcher, I know years ago she had talked in one of her first keynotes about engineering your life to stay small. And I think that's what many of us do, right? We build a life that we are sort of, it's small, it's safe, it's protected, and we don't go outside of our comfort zone. And that really is the biggest barrier to success.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think that when you're having fun like you do, I was watching a live stream you had a few weeks ago where you were trolled a little bit during the live stream, and you handled it like, I was like, what is she going to do? Is she going to delete the comment? Is she going to just ignore it? But you like, you directed it like head on. Like, is that something that like just comes naturally? I mean, like,
I think that that comes with age. And I think if there are women who are watching this, I think one of the most beautiful things about being a woman who has gone through a process of, having a child or getting a little bit older, and not necessarily being in your 20s anymore and getting into your 30s and later 30s, one of the most amazing things that we don't give ourselves enough credit for is that we become really strong and really resilient. And that's a beautiful thing. So for me, I am not intimidated necessarily by some of those comments. I usually will ignore them, or I will direct them, or just use logic and facts to be able to counter maybe what they're saying. And most importantly, like while I'm sitting here doing this right now and talking to people who are watching along, is that there are downstairs, my mom, dad are visiting from Prince Edward Island, my brother from Nova Scotia, my husband's downstairs, my son's at school. As long as none of those people are the trolls, I don't give it too much energy or thought, right? Like it doesn't, so people go onto social media all the time. They may say this off comment to me or be rude to me. I just don't take it personally, because you know what? They're coming obviously from a place where they feel they have to do that. And it's actually kind of sad, that gives them satisfaction. And I only feel huge empathy for them, but I certainly don't feel anger at what they've said unless I need to sort of counter it. But emotionally, it doesn't hit me at any level, as long as it's not my mom. Who's scolding me. That's good.
Oh my goodness. It's pretty funny how that works, right? And I think that it takes a village. When we're growing out of our comfort zone, and even the process of asking for help. Like I shared, and I think some people watching right now know that okay. I gotta get good at like watching my comments and not turning the sound on over here. But I sent you an 8-minute video request when it became very apparent to me that there was none other than Amber Mack to write the foreword of my book, Ready to Amplify. But part of that too was, it was very scary to make those asks, and just to say, hey, like, I have a message. I want to see more women share their magic with the world, more entrepreneurs get their expertise out there and step into a bigger spotlight. And I thought, who better than to kind of step in there and inspire more people with your message, right? Like you would help me help other people. So I asked, but I know like I was like, like rewriting, and I just did one take for the video. I was like, no makeup, messy office, like here you go. I got to put it out there. And, I think it does take a village, and I'm sure there's people in your life too that, that have helped you. Are there any, role models you've had? You mentioned Brene Brown, which I think, I just bought her new book, Dare to Lead, which I think will be great. But yeah, to share a little bit about who are the women and how, or people in your lives that have helped you. It does take a village.
Yeah, it really does take a village. And I think that, I am more inclined to help when someone shows great effort. And I guess what I mean by that is, Leigh, you sent me an 8-minute video and it brought me to tears. I mean, you shared so much in that video about your life and losing your mom and your journey and, why you wanted me to write the foreword. I mean, you took time and energy to do that. And I think that's what we have to understand. When you ask for help of someone, it shouldn't take that person more time to help you than it did for your ask, if that makes sense. You have to show that you put the energy in. And so just to answer your questions, early on in my career, I had a really great opportunity to work with Tony Robbins, who of course is a business coach. Some may know him as a motivational speaker, and he's motivated, millions and millions of people around the world. And what was incredible, when I had just met him, I had just written my first book, and I asked him to write a quote for me. All I wanted was a quote for the book, so like 2 sentences. And 2 days later, and if Chris is still watching right now, my husband, he can back up this amazing story. 2 days later, I get a video that is 90 seconds long, and it's Tony Robbins sitting at his desk, basically talking to camera, saying, if you're thinking about getting into social media, Amber Mack is the person you need to hire. She knows what she's doing. She's one of the best in the world. I mean, he just went off, and I was blown away. I'm like, Tony Robbins, who is one of the busiest people in the world, took the time to go above and beyond. I had asked him for, 2 or 3 sentences, and he actually made a video that I used that I would argue launched my career into speaking and helped with the book. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I thought, if someone at that level can take the time to do that, then, imagine how we can all help each other, right? And it was just so touching. And that's why when I got your video, that was the first or maybe second time in my career, which is getting longer all the time, that someone has taken the time to do a video. Now think about that. These little phones that we have in our hands can shoot incredible video. If you have an ask, wouldn't it be better, instead of writing an email that adds to, the hundreds of emails in someone's inbox or direct messages, that you took the time to do that, to show that you're serious, you're present, you're active? Because that's, to me, why, we're even chatting today, because I was just so blown away that you had gone above and beyond. And I know you're not going to promote yourself too much, but you have a new book coming out, and you should. And as another woman who's in the business world, I think people should buy it. And it's all about amplifying yourself, and you get that, and you're living that. So to me, that's really, I've had people do that for me, and in turn, I want to do it for other people as well.
Amazing. And I'm just learning so much from you. And I just can't wait for the viewers here to watch. And thank you for that, because it was something, like you just asking for help is a tough thing. And I can't believe the book came out today.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's going to be a month long of promotions and interviews and talking about, just the process of stepping into a bigger spotlight and bringing people along the journey with me too, I think. And because it's me, for myself, I work behind the scenes for my clients, and I know I need to reach more people. And this is one of those things, like, I'm stepping out of my comfort zone and excited to, really just reach more people. And, in the book, we talk about impostor syndrome a little bit, but we also talk about feel good content with credibility and integrity. And I think that's, you've spoken to that, through this interview, with just like showing up and like focusing on what's important, and the relationships are number one. And literally, this is, the reason for my book was that so many people feel icky about self-promotion. When I work with my clients, I like to teach them, this is how you can make it feel good, and it has to be aligned. And you've spoken too about alignment as well, which I think is health and business and career and goals. And so tell me a little bit, what's coming up next for you? I know you're working on a bunch of different things. And I mean, I want to put a little plug in here for your new podcast as well, The AI Effect, where I think you kicked things off with none other than our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. I think I said his name right. Oh my God. When you're live.
Yes, you got it.
So what's next for you, Amber?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, the podcast just launched last week. So that's a 7-episode series on basically the future of work and how this new wave of technology is going to affect people in every industry. Each episode is 20, 30 minutes long. It's free. It's on iTunes and other platforms. And I've spent the past few months in studio recording that with my amazing co-host, Jody Wallace. And every day I think about the fact that there's 2 women hosting a show on artificial intelligence, and it makes me giddy. And what also makes me giddy is the fact, like you said, we were able able to get the Prime Minister to join us on the podcast. So it was a great conversation with him, and really amazing to see his tech chops, so to speak, and his knowledge about this topic. So for me, I just have a bunch of stuff going on. Every week I do my weekly newsletter, and that's another kind of random story where we have about 5,000 subscribers to the newsletter right now. And I think even if I just had one subscriber, I would still do it. And I'll tell you why. The process of creating the newsletter and finding content that is relevant and new is about the best education that I can do on a weekly basis to stay fresh with my knowledge. And so I encourage people, if you think about a newsletter, something you want to offer, don't get obsessed with your numbers, but treat it both as a combination between an educational, almost like going back to school and learning and writing and composing and seeing what people want, and a service to your audience as well. So that has really helped me stay on top, and that's a continuous thing. And then in early December, I'll be doing my holiday guide for people interested in technology, holiday gifts. And we have a bunch of other stuff going on. We're always doing Facebook Lives and live streaming, and just a bunch of stuff on the go. So I don't necessarily have a perfect plan for the future, but I'm prepared to outwork people. And what I mean by that is just that, good things come from people who put in the time.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, I've just had such a great time with you today. I know we've probably hit a bunch of different questions, and I just want to make sure if there's any questions in the broadcast, I wanted to just quickly just go through. I know that Angela's excited to get a copy of my book. That's good. I should put that in there. That's in the subtitles right now. Thank you, Angela. And I can't wait. The technology, the platform, the opportunity for people to stand out and reach more people. Like, the tools are there, and it's not always going to be perfect, right? Like my book is printed, but it is not here in the room with me. It will be maybe in a couple hours, but it's like, you may never feel ready. You may never feel like it's perfect, but you have to go out and you have to do it. I mean, would you agree? Would you say that's pretty much, I don't know, that's a good attitude, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like that very famous Voltaire quote, which is, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And I think that is another barrier that stops a lot of people. And the second thing I'll say is another quote I like to share from Graham Wood, which is change has never happened this fast before, and it will never be this slow again. So if you think that things are going to slow down in the future and you'll have time to get caught up, that's not going to happen. Now is the time to embrace the change and to adapt to it. And that means using the latest tech and tools. And what an incredible set of resources that we have in front of us to be able to do live streams like this, to be able to chat with people, to see Liberty and Angela, and I've mentioned some names like Stephanie before, Shelley, to contact these people and engage with them. I mean, let's not forget the magic of this technology, because it's truly incredible. And as someone who grew up in rural Prince Edward Island, knowing that it's only because of this technology that I've been able to build what I've built today, I never take that for granted. And I think we should all do the same thing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm scared to hit end broadcast right now, but I really
Don't
appreciate it. I'm so honored to have you here. I had a lot of fun today. And I just, thank you so much again, and wishing you continued success in your career, and hope we stay in touch.
All right. Well, before I go, you have to remind people where they can get your book, because
Okay. So everyone, I've hit Amazon #1 bestseller in industrial marketing earlier this week, which was exciting. So you can purchase the book on Amazon, also Smashwords, which will distribute to Apple and everywhere else. And if you go to leightfowler.com/book, I have a special offer for those that buy the book. Send me the receipt. I'm gifting people over $500 worth of educating training about helping you step into a bigger spotlight. You'll get some really cool virtual training, live Q&As, things like that. So if you send me, buy the book, send me the receipt, leightfowler.com/book, and I'm going to be with you this month and seeing you amplify, step into a bigger spotlight.
Awesome. And how much is the book? I think you might have said it, but I missed it.
Oh yeah, good call. Thank you, girl. So the ebook is $7 US. So it's $7 Canadian. The paperback, which will come out later today, is $12.99 Canadian or $9.99 US, and it is a pocket guide. So it's a 7-day pocket guide to stepping up your street cred, amplifying with feel-good content strategies. It's for experts, business coaches, and consultants who want to make a bigger impact and be in alignment with it too.
So it's basically the price of like 2 lattes. You can support an amazing woman, get lots of free training, and lots more. So I know, Leigh, you don't like me promoting you this much, but I do have to encourage people to buy the book because I have a chance to check it out, and you are the real deal. So thank you so much for having me, and good luck with your launch. And I hope lots of people buy it.
Thank you so much. Okay, have an amazing day. Happy November 1st. Happy International Authors Day, actually.
Thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.